Okay, let's get right into this because a lot of people on the Republican side feel that they fully understand why the Democratic Party lost, basically big in the 2024 into 2025 election. And the Democratic side is also kind of forming their own opinions as to where they got there. And the thing is, I'm getting a lot of people reaching out to me saying, hey, this is why they lost, or this is why they lost, or this is why they lost. And I don't think that the average American actually realizes why the Democratic Party lost. So I just wanted to give them a better understanding of specifically what happened to the Democratic Party. Now, this is not going to be a video that's mean towards one particular party. It's going to be a neutral discussion as to what's required from both parties when it comes to what they need to actually win going forward. So I just wanted to go through everything. The title of the video is why the Democratic Party lost everything. And I guess the first point is that they really didn't lose everything because they still held on to a significant amount of seats. But clearly, I don't think anyone would argue that when it comes to the big game tickets, like the House, the Senate, the Oval Office, the Republicans, they did win everything in that regard. Someone called on Friday to the law firm, which is basically a couple of days ago, and they were freaking out on the business line. So I checked to see if they were a client with a legal question, and they were a client because, we get all kinds of calls from all different people. But it wasn't a legal question. And I could see that they were having this panic attack, a freak out. They were worried that, they were going to lose their recently approved benefits because they believed that Donald Trump was going to end, basically what they had waited for, what they'd finally achieved or received. And I realized, obviously, immediately that this person was watching a lot of hard left news, from the first couple of full push ramble sentences. And the stuff where it's, a lot of that stuff, it's a lot of hate bait. It's not about policies. It's not on the books of the Congress.gov website. It's like side legacy news that's trying to push, race bait, cheap bait, suffering bait, homeless bait, end of times bait, just a lot of baiting people to feel emotions without giving them an explanation as to why realistically this is going to happen and then what to prepare for it. Like I noticed legacy news channels are devoid. Like if an emergency were to happen and the medication was not able to be delivered, there's no explanation from them as to like what to do. It's just like, freak out mode. So, look, frankly, some of you need, some end of times knowledge, right? Because you're just like floating and happy. And, some of you need a shock. And I get that. I get that, I'm one of them. Like when it comes to like where I live on the East Coast, the most likely place to be attacked by a foreign nation. Literally. Am I prepared for that? Not even close. Not even close. So I was talking with a security expert today, and there were so many questions I was always too afraid to ask him. And I was terrified by his answers when I asked just some of them. But after like 20 minutes of hearing his response and things that could be fixed, my terrified reaction went down to like a mild concerned. And it gave me like a mini checkpoint list to go through in my head as to things to achieve to make sure I'm in a better spot. Because, at the end of the day, you feeling better is part of it, but it's really, are you prepared for these things? So I just want to say there are no congressional plans to completely end any benefit that have any real fee to them, any real getting, through the committees onto the floor abilities to them. Yes, Trump is dismantling what Biden did. Yes, you normally don't dismantle Medicare or other social security programs without having a plan of what you will replace the original with, right? Because if you pull apart what Biden did, you should have a backup plan to fix it or make it better than what it was. But again, it is Trump. Trump is kind of like Indiana Jones. He's kind of just he's doing things. He's got a general direction, a general idea of where it needs to end up. He's in emergency mode and some very macro steps. He'll be moving in that direction to get things done. So I get the nervous buzz, especially from Democrats. But at the same time, I think a lot of it is being overhyped without explanation. I always try to keep my videos neutral and independent on the political block. I know people, they call me a Trumper or they call me a Dumbo Demo or all sorts of names. Sometimes they include the name rat in them. It is what it is. But the point is, I think we have a couple of months now to take a deep breath, right, from the election and look back on what happened during 2024. Many of you already know, that you believe that the Republicans won and you understand why they won. Maybe you do get it. Maybe you don't. But this way you can kind of understand my perspective on why the election cycle went the way it did. First off, and we're going to talk from the Democrat, standpoint because they lost the election. Democrats need to have a rock star. a Roosevelt, a Kennedy, a Clinton, a Wilson, an Obama, a Johnson, and instead they got a Harris. Harris not only did not have the talent to answer tough questions and come out with party altering quick responses, but rather her speeches were mostly being turned into comedy sketches. One thing that most Americans do not realize is that when the stakes are high in a presidential election, which they always are, it's the ultimate election, the outcome is usually so scary that the voters can't imagine it going any other way. You get people voting on emotion, and you know how like Nike sells shoes but advertises elite athletes? That's because they are selling that the consequence of buying their shoes, paying that really high, almost obnoxious price, because it's a shoe. You know what I mean? It's a shoe. It will likely turn you into a pro athlete. So the consequence is high price, but the stake is your future as a pro athlete because you have the tools then, the Nike shoes, needed to invent and achieve your full athletic potential on the field. Right? That's what they sell. Ralph Lauren sells old world money. They really sell clothing, but the whole world, the whole old world money idea, the guy who's buying into it, he wants the gorgeous woman who, basically only has eyes for him, which is total bullshit. And the gorgeous woman only has these eyes really on his car, the estate, the acres of safety, and unending perfect outings, right? Just to go do whatever during the day. Okay. Put another way, Ralph Lauren is selling trophy wife possession for men and safety, security, and wielded envy to women. Ralph Lauren, is the fine wine to an ego that wishes to simultaneously look down on the poor and middle class while at the same time receive their wishful gaze, pretending to be some sort of royalty. In politics back in the day, they sold a strong protector, right? Way back. The first leaders were strong protectors. Then the leaders became lucky survivors with vengefulness on their tongue. They wanted vengefulness, or they wanted to revenge somebody, or some group did some harm to some people, and they were the one that stood up and said, "We'll change it." Then they sold royalty, right? That's why we have these kings and queens. And now they sell rock stars. They sell people who other people want to touch, right? Be around, listen to. 1.5 billion was spent on that concert, and it was a flop. This is because she didn't have the talent to be a rock star. And let me ask you this. If we take Harris versus a modern day version of Kennedy or Roosevelt and on, she loses every time. Now, there is a woman in the Democratic Party who is meant to be the president. But to be fair, I really think the Republicans will be the first group to put a female in the Oval Office. But again, who knows how that'll come down? We just don't know. So what is a rock star? It's like this buzz, this feeling of everything swimming with the tide. And the sunsets are glorious. The person is who they are and who they are meant to be for the party in the exact moment that they are that person. And so the thing to be, with this whole thing is it's different for different people, for different times. But one thing is clear, people, whether they hate one party or the other, will still look up and over in amazement when the presidential candidate comes through the doorway. They have to have that kind of rock star buzz to them. It's like this weird power, and 99.99999% of Americans don't have that. And it is that that 0.000000001% of Americans that do have that rock star blood of the president in them, and people can feel it. The Democrats were robbed of their opportunity to choose who would be their champion. Their rock star. They were given Harris in a weird exchange, almost like the Pope stepping down before death. Democrats in the future must be allowed to pick their rock star. And we need to be fair in admitting that the executives in the party, Democratic Party, were too heavy-handed with their power without allowing the people to choose their champion to fight to come in that big, giant battle against Trump. The next issue is that the rock star must have enough time in the ramp-up period to have matured in the eyes of the people. What do I mean by this? When you watch a movie with new characters in it, they seem awkward, new. They don't fit right? Okay, they kind of itch like a Christmas sweater. And to be fair, we aren't used to the thing that they are in the process of becoming. This is why a presidential candidate must be seasoned. People need to be used to their voice, the way they stand, the way they walk, the PowerPoints they push, and the smile that comforts you. They need to be used to all that stuff. with disability hearings, with your disability attorney, I always tell them, hey, look, you need to be used to your disability attorney's voice, how they ask questions, how they direct you and get the next category of questions going. With presidential hopefuls, their eyes need to speak to their future voters, and their future voters need to see that their needs are in the honesty of the eyes looking back at them. That's crucial. Harris didn't have ramp up time. It wasn't fair for her. Yeah, you could say she was the vice president. She had more ramp up time than anybody else. I get that, but people had a hard time connecting with her. Her greatest achievement was the debate against Trump. Trump completely underestimated her, as she just had the beginnings of something going on, and then it just kind of faded because she didn't have that same, rah, 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 and the preparedness wasn't there going into the yard lines of interviews that came thereafter. The next issue is that the party is the direction, but in a presidential race, only a rock star candidate becomes the direction, meaning that they're really the ones who set what the policies are going to be for that party. Think about Trump. I mean, Trump could lean one way or the other way, and the party then becomes that. The party then steps into the background while the candidate becomes the voice of the next 4 years. The Republican Party, as the GOP, knows that Trump can change the winds of the party, by merely leaning one way or another. And the Republican Party knows that Trump holds the power. The Democratic Party always has the power and direction in 20 they always had the power and direction in 2024, and they never handed it off to Harris. And Harris could never become more powerful than the DNC, while Trump told the RNC, who, what, where, when. Trump dictated because he was the rock star that was jumping into the position to be the voice of all of those people. So you can tell when someone is meant to be president because they become more powerful than the voice of their party's political leader. That's like one of the key identifiers that will tell you what's going on. The next issue is whether the party is a ball and chain or a ladder to success. Biden had cognitive decline, a failed economy, a DEI agenda that spit in the faces of most working Americans who lost their savings, and a lot of promises that developed slower or never really got off the ground. The DNC had pushed agendas that tried to not anger anyone, but in the end, they were kind of gridlocked out of movement because someone always loses while someone else gains. And this was a ball and chain on Harris. She couldn't establish herself as a different headliner act. She had to. She had to be her own show. But she was more of like a halftime show type of person. She was always stuck to trying to make everybody happy, the lesbian, gay, the trans community, while trying to make amends with the Black and Jewish communities. The next presidential election rule, just to clarify, is that you don't bite the hand that feeds you. You need money first and vote second, sure. So you can't bite the hand that feeds you, that also votes for you. That was the Jewish vote. And Harris, she kind of learned, that the Middle East leaning, right, could go ahead and take out her mega voting Jewish bloc that was also a mega donating Jewish bloc. So as a result of the leaning towards the Middle East, she lost a massive chunk of Jewish voters. And, while she still had the money, she didn't have the votes. And that's the thing. Those individuals are more, whatever you want to call them, sacred. They're more, worth more to your votes or whatever. But those are the individuals. When there's the money and the votes, those are the individuals that basically go ahead and set you up going into the future with a potential win to be president. So these future presidential candidates, they need to be aware of that. They have to be aware of that. Now, the next presidential election rule is that, you'll need to basically have a stance. You'll need to know where you stand. You'll need to see where the candidates are. You need to be able to answer, what do I want from a candidate? But the candidate also needs to be able to answer hard questions with easily digestible answers. So like things like, what is a woman? Do you feel that an open border is a model for success? Do you feel evaporated savings accounts is an acceptable standard of living? Do you feel controlling food and oil CEOs is within your abilities as the future most powerful person on earth? Democrats are a wide array of people, right? Republicans, they're a wide array too, but they're more lined up in a particular direction, although they weren't always that way. And I get it, the magic path to getting the votes to line up, it's incredibly difficult. I get that. I understand that most people in their party don't realize that. Republicans don't realize that most of their politicians are going in different directions, just like Democratic politicians are going in different directions. Remember, the Republicans need to make all these types of individuals happy, right? You've got establishment Republicans, traditional Republicans, fiscal conservatives, social conservatives. You got libertarians, you got, basically populist nationalist Republicans, neoconservatives, moderates, center right Republicans, Tea Party Republicans, MAGA Republicans, and then you got Democrats. Democrats have to keep, basically progressive Democrats, moderate Democrats, centrist Democrats, blue dog Democrats, liberal Democrats, Democrats, socialists, establishment Democrats, the new third wave Democrats. It's a lot of people to keep happy. Civil rights Democrats, labor Democrats, urban Democrats, environmental Democrats, tech Democrats. There's a lot of people to keep happy. Foreign policy hawks, right? That was kind of like Clinton and Adam Schiff. Like I said, it's magic when it happens and somebody actually achieves becoming president of the United States. Because getting it all lined up enough to get a win is it's like winning the lottery. Some of you will say that in this video, I potentially attacked or said something mean about your candidate. With that reason, I just say to you, please watch it again. You are sometimes, as a person, very connected to your party with the expectation that they're going to do and be exactly what you want them to be in your mind. Many people are emotionally primed to prosecute anybody that talks about their party not being successful, some even to pull the rope loose on the blade. But if you just take a moment to consider these things and break the crystal-like house that the parties kind of put you in, that they build for you, you will start to realize that you are in control and that you make the choices in your body, in your house, on your spot. You know that Donald Trump will likely go for a third potential term. Who is the future Democratic candidate to go against him? Who is the Democratic rock star? So think about that. You have to have one, and it takes time to season them. I will catch everybody a little bit later. You have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. I have to get on phones for the law firm, but I hope that this was a new way to look at why the Democratic Party had a very difficult time in the election, why they spent so much and had negative results. I will catch you all a little bit later. Attorney Walter Hnot, please remember to like, please remember to subscribe. And also, with that said, I'm going to be going live today, Mondays and Thursdays, to answer legal questions. And if you need a private session for me to go over a legal issue you have with disability law, there's a mini contract below. I'll catch you a little bit later. Doom Pigeon, howdy, howdy. Let me go ahead and give you a little heart there. I will catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful, wonderful day and a wonderful, wonderful week. I hope you stay warm, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much, Attorney Walter Hnot, and I'll catch you later. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.